we ended up getting about $1 million worth of orders in like 4 days.
Hey, my name is Felix Tia, and I'm the host of Shopify Masters, a weekly podcast powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. Each week, we invite entrepreneurs like you to share what they've learned growing successful e-commerce businesses. In this episode, you'll learn what it's like to run a business on the side for a decade, what are the most important things to spend your time on early in your business, and what else other than production do you need to scale up when your business grows. Before our show, I wanted to let you know about Shopify Inbox. It's a brand new free sales channel you can set up right now in your admin. With Inbox, you can manage all the customer conversations from your store and social media in one place. Plus, chat anywhere, anytime using the mobile app or on the web. Most importantly, Inbox can help you close sales since 70% of Shopify Inbox conversations are with customers making a purchasing decision. Use the power of chat to turn browsers into buyers. For more information, visit shopify.com/chat. Today I'm joined by Michael Pan from Pan's Mushroom Jerky. Pan's Mushroom Jerky is a plant-based snack made out of shiitake mushrooms with a delicious umami taste and satisfying meaty texture, and was started in 2018 and based out of Portland, Oregon. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the inspiration behind this business, and we're just talking off air about how you have multiple birthdays, but I think the inspiration came from a trip to Malaysia. Tell us more about where the idea came from.
Yeah, that's right. And so my mom is actually from Peru, and my dad is from was born and raised in a small fishing village in Malaysia. And so when he was 14. My dad moved to the U.S. by himself. He didn't know any English, and eventually supported himself through college. And believe it or not, I actually grew up in Mississippi, even though I may not sound like it. But and growing up there, I always felt disconnected from my family heritage. And so I loved living there, but I always felt disconnected. And so I loved visiting my extended family overseas, and would go visit and try to learn as much as I could. And so during one of these visits to Malaysia, there was a bowl of food on the table. I had no idea what it was, and decided to try it. And actually, initially, I thought it was a pork snack, but I was super confused because my family who fed it to me were vegetarian. And so that's when I learned really quickly that it's actually a mushroom that I was eating. And so I found out that my cousin had been making this snack for himself, for his family, and selling it locally. And as vegetarians, they had a hard time finding foods that not only tasted great, but also a really, really great, satisfying texture. And they found that mushrooms were not only, came with a lot of health benefits, but they were very satisfying in terms of texture as well. And so what this trip did was it really opened my eyes to an amazing culture that with innovative foods that I had a connection with, that have been mimicking the taste and texture of meat for a long, long time. And so after I heard the story, I fell in love with the product, its history. That's when I knew our family had a snack that needed to be shared with the rest of the world. And that's when I decided to launch Pan's Mushroom Jerky, actually part-time.
Yeah, so you recognized that there was a great product. You said your family's already selling this overseas. Sounds like locally, is selling it locally. What made you make that jump from saying, wow, this is great, and even to like saying the rest of the world needs to taste this, but then also making that another leap to saying that let me be the one to start a business to get this out to the world? How did you make that kind of jump?
That's a good question. One thing, and you mentioned this briefly, we have a couple of birth dates. 2018 is when we launched, but actually as a concept, this actually launched conceptually. This trip took place in 2008. And so at the time, this was plant-based wasn't a thing. It was vegan, very niche based, and anything that wasn't a meat jerky was really considered weird, I would say, at that point. And at the time, I was working at a corporate job, and I actually knew nothing about the food business at all. But I just knew that I felt like this is a great product. I loved the product, and I felt like it could reach a mass audience in general. And so that's when, did I know that, today we'd be where we're at? No, but I love the product so much, and I believe that this is something that was not only good for, vegetarians and vegans at the time, but I felt like it would broadly be accepted as a really good snack. And that was not only good, but also healthy. And so that's when I decided to, while I loved working at this corporate job, I felt like I just had this itch where I needed something more satisfying. And so that's when I decided to take that leap into this business. And I think what really helped me actually take the leap also was that I actually did this as a side hustle for a number of years as a concept. And so I would work full time and then work on what it was like to actually launch a food business on the side. And that kind of allowed me, while it took took more time and effort, it kind of allowed me to self-fund and to figure out how to get off the ground at such an early stage. And, using the income I was getting from this full-time job, I was really able to fund those initial stages, which tend to take a long time and also are very expensive. And so that I think that combination really helped me ease my way into launching the business we have today.
Yeah, so 2008, basically 10 years or a decade in between this spark of an idea into a side hustle into more of a full-time business. I think this is a path that others might want to take, either because they want to self-fund it, or maybe they're just, they don't have a high tolerance for taking a risk by jumping right in. Talk to us more about like what was the kind of day-to-day like during that time where you're working a full-time job and doing this on the side.
It's not easy. I mean, the pros are obviously that, like a lot of startups, I wasn't out fundraising necessarily. And, I had a little bit of a safety net a bit, right. To go on this new thing. And like I said, I don't understate this, that I had not been in the food business. I knew nothing about it. My background is actually in engineering. Went to school at University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign for electrical engineering degree. And so my background was actually more in engineering technical side of things. And so, what that really did was it helped this position of having this fairly steady job really funded a lot of those growth and learning pains that I needed to go through on how to start not only, just becoming an entrepreneur and starting that journey, but also how, the specifics of what I need to run a food business. And so very, very challenging because, ultimately you're working full-time job. And a lot of times those jobs end up encompassing more hours than, 9 to 5. But this initial stages that I was in, you just have this drive and desire to really to figure it out. And so any extra time that I had was very much focused on how to get this product launched and ultimately into consumers' hands. And so there are sacrifices that have to be made, especially in terms of free time and so on. But the trade-off is that I was able to at least fund it with my own dollars. Right at the beginning of this concept. At such an early stage when plant-based wasn't as big as it is today, it was very niche at the time.
Yeah, I'm assuming during this time too, like you're looking around at your friends and colleagues, they're probably not doing the same thing you're doing. People are maybe investing in a down payment on a house on their retirement, and you're pouring all this money into a business. Did you ever look around and think like, man, maybe I'm like crazy and like doing the wrong thing while everyone is, living their life differently? Did you ever have those thoughts in your mind?
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I still have that today. I mean, we're still very much on this journey today even. And it's hard. It's hard not to, a lot of it, I was prepared for, initially when I started this, I was prepared for a lot of the, just the logistics and just challenges financially that you go into the business. But a lot of it, a lot of things that I really didn't realize I would have to be ready for was just the emotional and psychological side. And, you're right. It's seeing other people live, being able to go take trips. It's being able to see other people, focused on other things. And while you're worried about, farmer's market that you have to go sell product, or you have to worry about, these what's my marketing message that I want to convey our products with, you end up seeing a lot of that, and you have to have a lot of discipline to stay focused and also prioritize. But like a lot of people say, is when you find something you love so much, and you want to see you succeed. I mean, ultimately that has to really provide that core desire to focus on growing your business. And luckily, I found that with this product and this product I wanted to bring to market. And not only that, but I think also being ready as a person and just where I was in my life. I'd worked at this engineering job for probably 10 years. And, I learned a lot from a lot of really great people and smart people. But I was just at the right place where I was just itching for something that I was truly passionate about. And, that really gets you through those early stages, and how I was able to dedicate more time into a side hustle.
Yeah, and especially something that spans over a decade. There's this thought about how do you make sure that you're not burning out, and I think people's interests, even their passions, kind of change pretty drastically, especially over a decade. How do you know, for you, how are you able to identify that what's fueling you to move forward is this passion rather than some other maybe extrinsic reason to run a business? How do you identify that, this is the quote unquote right reason that I'm still spending a lot of the early days that you're spending a lot of your time and money into it and keeping it going?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it's probably very personal to each person, but I think, I don't know how to say this in the right words, but you just know. And people say a lot of times when you live and breathe your business, when they start something off, you do end up truly living and breathing your business. And I think for me, that was when I kind of knew. I knew that not only did I feel it was always on my mind at the time, I felt like it was just something that, outside of my work hours, and admittedly, even during my normal work hours, I had this itch and this thing in my head that this is an amazing opportunity. It was an amazing product that needed to get into more hands. It would help people who were looking for products like this. And ultimately, I felt like we had a solution for them, that this is something that would help people reduce their meat consumption, whether it's environmental or whether it's through they want to eat healthier and so on. And I just felt it. I felt that all the time. And that's how I knew. I don't know if that's what everyone else goes through, but that's ultimately what I literally got. It sounds cheesy, but what I literally would get up for every day and also stay up late to work on.
Yeah, and speaking of this itch and this constantly on your mind, like you mentioned, even during work hours, did you find that during this time of working both the side business at the time and your full-time job, that it was balanced, or was it like sprints of focusing on the day job versus sprints of focusing on the side business? Like how balanced or how chaotic was it?
I would say it was a balance. I mean, I took my job seriously, of course, and I felt responsible for obviously delivering what I needed on my full-time job. So it was definitely a balance. And, luckily I was able to squeeze enough hours out, and ultimately what gets sacrificed is time. I mean, I don't have a story where I started this on, one night, and then 4 months later or a year later, I'm off and running. My story is a decade old, and that's, or longer. And so, I chose to find that balance so that I could deliver on what I was supposed to be, doing at my full-time job, and whatever other time I could squeeze out, that's what I would do to work on the side business. And, that equated to, roughly 6 to 10 years of work on the side that added up to today.
Yeah, when you are kind of short on time because of a day job, what did you find was like the best use of your time, especially in the early days when you're trying to get things off the ground? Like, what were some things you look back on and realize, like, wow, I'm glad I spent time on that, or I wish I spent more time on this particular function in the business?
That's a good question. I think, especially even today as a startup, I mean, you are resource constrained. Well, then that's time and money, right? And so luckily for the money side, at least at that time, it was solved by having the side business. I was able to, funnel some money into the work that's needed to launch. And then for time, I mean, I think and again, this still applies today. You have to be very ruthless in terms of what you prioritize. Being it's really easy, and especially I think entrepreneurs tend to be pretty scatterbrained, and I have to constantly remind myself, even today, that I have to stay focused on what's needed a bit while keeping the big picture in mind. Really ruthlessly prioritizing what you need, because your time is always going to be limited, even side hustle or non-side hustle. And so, at that time, I think I wish I would have realized that a little bit more and made sure that I did focus on the things that were important. And so early on, it was, what's the product I need? What is the brand? And I would tend to get scatterbrained a little bit and start then looking at maybe a little too far in advance, like who would I want to sell to down the road, when I didn't even have a product and a viable way to produce and get the product out to the market. And so I think that's just the danger that, in hindsight, I wish I would have seen that a little more, and I may have been able to save more of my time. But ultimately that's what added up to, 10 years of experience to learn that.
Yeah, and I think, it's one thing to be ruthless about the prioritization that you're talking about. I want to get back into back in a bit to talk about how you do that. But I think even before that, you have to know what is that next step that's in front of you. How are you able to identify that? It's like you mentioned that it sounded like you're able to at least recognize that, okay, thinking about who I want to sell to down the line, or what retailers I want to get into when you don't have a product, even any customers yet, is obviously there's one right thing to focus on than the other. But is there something that you do to make sure that you know what is the next step, so that you can focus on the next step rather than 10 steps ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, and again, I still do this today, but it's keeping. I think one really important thing that I think a lot of people should consider is it's not only just setting goals of what you want. So I think that's typically I think that gets communicated to people quite a bit, or is taught. Obviously you want to. What's your goal? What's your goal for the next month, 3 months, 5 months, year? Where do you want to see this end up going at some point? But also, keeping in mind what is your mission? What are you really in this for? And I think that actually helps strip down a lot of the things that may not actually be important right now. And so I think establishing that mission as early as possible, along with figuring that out, and then kind of determining, well, how do I get there as quick as possible? It starts with that mission, and then you're able to dissect. All right, well, this is important. This is important to get there. Actually, this is really important. Great, I'll focus on that. I think that, in my opinion, is quite helpful. Honestly, we still do that today.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I would love to make this a little bit more tangible. Can you give us an idea of, or maybe even say to us, like, what is the mission that you're on, and like how you've been able to actually tactically break it down to things that you need to do today or this week?
Yeah, I mean, so our mission is we want to reduce meat consumption by offering satisfying, nutritious, delicious foods made from mushrooms. And so, an example is, and we get asked this, we've been asked this a lot, even today still, and I think a trap that perhaps people get into is, as entrepreneurs, we want to create so many things, right? And so many different types of things. And we get asked all the time, are you going to make a jerky out of, fruit? Are you going to make a jerky out of like a tomato or something? And, we could have easily started playing around with, products like that, or just different types of products that we, were interested in, or because we're curious. But, when you hone in on that, it stripped all that down, right? We want to use mushrooms to help reduce meat consumption. So, that's just an example of, we didn't go and create some other type of jerky out of another fruit or whatever, or another vegetable. It allowed us to focus specifically on mushrooms. And then from that, what kind of products at some point that are, meet those criteria, being very satisfying. They got to be nutritious. We, of course, want them to be delicious. And that kind of helps narrow down, even the ingredients that you choose. we make very conscious decisions into what goes in our product. And so because we want it to be nutritious, and we really strive for very simple ingredients, and also push for ingredients that you can pronounce. And flavor profiles. We aren't out there to try to do necessarily weird flavors. We want to have really good, delicious flavors that we release, so that a lot of people will of course find them delicious. So those are examples that keep us on track.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think the important thing here is that I think we think about the word goals, and when we think about trying to work towards our goals, we think about how can we throw as many things as possible so we move closer to the goal. But you're almost saying like treat your goal as like a filter, as a way for you to put things against. And if it doesn't actually contribute towards the goal, then you have to be ruthless about cutting it out. So I want to talk a little about this ruthless prioritization you talked about, because I think it's easy to sit down, in your office or in a warehouse, wherever you are, getting your work done for your business, and get kind of sucked up into the day and being pulled into one thing or the other. And before you know it, at the end of the day, you're like, wow, what happened with my day? So do you have a routine, especially at the beginning of the day or the day before, to make sure that you can be strategic about how you spend your days?
Yeah, I do. And admittedly, I will say this, I don't have this, I don't think I want to preface this by saying I don't have it all figured out. I mean, I think everyone has a different routine based off of their structure, their team, their funding, how far along with you. And the reality is that as a startup, you have to wear so many hats. It's very difficult, and it's really impossible to just, really get it, stay focused. It's really the nature of the beast is there's so many things you have to worry about, especially early on. And even still today, that it's really hard to get this prioritization done. But what I've recently started doing that's helped me personally is that, keeping all the goals and the mission in mind, I try to start off with 3 things I want to get accomplished. I try to strip it all down, and here are 3 things that I end the day with that I want to try to accomplish tomorrow. And I kind of go to bed with that, and then I wake up to that prepared to try to take on 3 accomplishable things. Does that always happen? Admittedly not. But it kind of helps me focus day to day what's really important that I really want to get done. And then again, like I said, I think no matter what, you're always going to be faced with just all these other things you have to end up doing, and they're going to creep in on you every day, and you'll have to work on those things. But at least kind of what those 3 things, or what I go in knowing what 3 things I really want to try to make sure actually get done.
Makes sense. Now, during this span, get from the side business to a full-time business, do you remember any particular inflection points that took it closer, that made kind of like a huge step towards becoming more of a full-time thing?
Yeah, and this is kind of the rest of our origin story, while we have 2 birthdays. So, like I said, I worked full-time, engineering background, worked my way up through a number of different product development and engineering management roles. Again, learned a lot, but wasn't fully satisfied with the career. And I knew that I wanted to get into entrepreneurship and into a startup. And so I've been doing this Pan's Mushroom Jerky on the side for a number of years. And luckily, I was able to actually jump full time into another startup that was a tech startup that I worked on with friends for a few years, and from 2012 to about 2016. And what I did was with Pans is I continued to operate on the side business, but at the time this other venture was we had raised some money, so we were able to get actual salary from it. And we're also going through some just kind of all of our first experiences in terms of starting a business with a team. And so in hindsight, we actually did not get as big as we wanted to, but we did end up selling that business, which was great. But while the downsides were that I continued to work on Pans on the side, and it made our real launch, longer. It took another 3 to 4 years where I continued to do it as a side hustle. In hindsight, I'm really glad I did it. And the reason is because I think I really didn't realize what I didn't know until I actually started working on a startup business. And so I was really able to cut my teeth a bit on what it's like to start from the ground up on a new business. And I think that uh, I hate to call it distraction, but this kind of this new full-time job that continued to push my food business on the back burner was actually ultimately beneficial because I was able to learn what it really took to get a business off the ground. And yeah, I'm really thankful for that, despite having to delay pans even longer. So that was one tipping point. And once that business wrapped up, I was actually really prepared to jump all in. I felt like it wasn't such a leap anymore. I was like, all right, I'm used to working in a startup world, and I can jump full time to this. So that was one inflection point. The second actually was market timing, actually. And again, do I wish my story was like a year old and we were already we launched, and we're making so much sales and so on right away? I don't have that story. And in hindsight, even though I started this in 2008, I don't know that the market was actually ready at that time for a product like ours. Vegan was very, very niche still. Natural was still kind of growing in general. And so it was actually pretty early now that I look back on it. And so funny enough, when I started launching this full time in 2018, the market was actually it changed so much since then, and it was actually ready for it at the time. Vegan was now turning into plant-based, and luckily there are other food companies that were creating, this plant-based world, and it was becoming more mainstream. In addition to that, mushrooms were actually starting to become more popular. It was more about, in the past, it's always been about mushrooms in the produce aisle. What kind of mushrooms can I put in my salad and so on, or in my toppings? And at that time, mushrooms were starting to be looked at as a superfood and getting recognition for that. And how do I get more mushrooms in my diet, whether that's through a drink or whether that's through a snack? So it was starting to, people were starting to turn around to the idea that I need to get more mushrooms in my diet. How do I do that? That's not just on top of my salad. And then lastly, even jerky and snacking in general continues to be more popular because people are on the go more and more. And so we're always looking, people are always looking for just convenient on the go snacks. And there's just more awareness in general about trying to get healthy options for that. And luckily those kind of three large trends all collided to actually when I was fully ready to work on pans full time. And so those are two pretty key inflection points for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing story about how there's this like preparation opportunity meeting again for the second attempt. And other than these kind of market forces, did you personally do anything differently in this second attempt? Things that lessons learned, or just an approach that you took differently the second time around?
Yeah, I would say definitely learning what it was like when you don't have focus and a mission that's clear for us. And so I think that was one. It goes back to kind of the prioritization, what you're trying to do. If everyone's not on the same page with limited resources, it becomes challenging very quickly because you're scattered and you don't have the resources to do everything. And so I think that was something that I learned quite a bit when I did this first previous startup. And again, I don't want to understate the psychological, emotional side too, and how, what it's like to really push forward through adversity and challenges, because there's no question you will have challenge after challenge after challenge that you'll have to figure out. And luckily I was kind of getting used to that mindset that I had to have. And so I think having that mindset going into working on pans full time really helped us and still helps me today. And not only that, I would say lastly is that, again, I joke about this, but I threw an engineering degree away to work in a very unscalable or not a very easily scalable business like a food business. But I'm really proud and happy that I did go and get an engineering background, because ultimately what, and my education I was lucky to have at University of Illinois, help. You're always having to solve problems through this journey, and I think it really helped me. That mindset also, that experience also helped me figure out all the challenges that I went through and are still going through today.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a review on iTunes to let us know what you think or what you'd like to hear more of. Now, let's get back to the interview. Awesome. So, speaking of focus, there was a time where, as again, I'm assuming when the market forces changed everything, where the demand for pans outpaced your production capabilities. Talk to us more about what happened.
Yeah, and that has been a challenge, honestly, since we started, and it's really difficult to get that right balance of how much you need to make and what the market is ultimately asking for and buying. And I will say that our recent experiences where we were very lucky enough to be on Shark Tank in 2020. It really was a big taste of that, where we were quickly, in a great way, overwhelmed with the response that we got from our episode in Shark Tank, and we had to figure that out fairly recently. How do we meet the demand that ebbs and flows naturally with such a fast changing environment, and we're honestly still learning that today. But I'll just say that I don't think there's a silver bullet, and this is where I kind of goes back again, not to harp on it, but it's prioritizing and really problem solving how to do that, and that happens almost every moment of the day. What do we need? What can we do with the resources we have to meet the demand? And that could be anywhere from hiring the right people. It starts with people first. What team you have to help accomplish that, and then obviously there are more specifics that we have been working on, which is, of course, how do we change our operations? How do we change the way we make this to make this a bit more scalable going forward? And so those are all things that we had to go through, and we still are going through, especially after Shark Tank.
Yeah, definitely want to talk about that Shark Tank experience. So tell us more about how you were able to get on the show.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate that we had the opportunity because, and this is during as the pandemic was starting as well. We had been approached by their team because they had seen our product at a Whole Foods in LA, and so that kind of started the conversation, which we're very lucky to have, and that's how it came across. And we went through the process of course, getting on the show, and luckily we ended up getting through all the stages where we were able to present. I think it was November 20th, 2020. We were able to air on Shark Tank, but it wasn't easy. As you're managing a business, you're having to weigh going through that process along with managing your business. But we were lucky to go through it.
Do you remember exactly the day that it aired in late 2020? Like what was going on with the site? Like, was the site just getting slammed with orders? Like, what was going on? Do you remember that night?
Yeah, it's a blur. I hope to one day be able to enjoy it and look back on it and look at some of the footage. But yeah, so we aired on November 20th, 2020. And, I, like a lot of people, I'm a fan also. And, I watch from my couch. I critique myself and deals and, watching, all these great entrepreneurs get on the carpet. And so I very much fan to actually being on the show. Was quite the experience, but I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I knew that we would get visibility. I knew that people would hopefully order after they saw us, but I had no idea what to expect in terms of orders and how much we'd get from the show. And we ended up getting about $1 million worth of orders in, I think, 4 days.
Wow! And
I quickly learned that was a lot. that was quite a bit, and so we were very, very fortunate. I think people, obviously, again, speaks to the market that people are very open and looking for products that reduce their meat consumption, and we also happen to have a very positive episode in general. The sharks loved it, and we had a bit of drama too. If you watch the episode, I was put on the infamous clock, which I think added to it as well, and very fortunate that we got the response that we had from the audience and also from the sharks as well, and getting landing a great partner, Mark Cuban, as well, and so yeah, that night was a bit surreal. I've never I don't know if I can ever replicate that, but it was incredible to get roughly $35,000 or 35,000 orders, equated to about 1 million in sales. And luckily we got together, our team, got together that night, and watched the episode and kind of watched it unfold as it was going. And mind you, I did not know, I had no idea what to expect. I remember the experience of pitching, but to seeing it edited and on TV, very surreal, more dramatic. I mean, it was dramatic in person, but it was very dramatic on just watching it as well.
Yeah, it's like almost like an hour squeezed down to like 5 minutes, right? Was that like about what your experience was?
I don't even know how long the pitch was, but it was somewhere around that and stripped down to about 15 minutes of the show. And yeah, I was very fortunate to watch it with my team. We all loved it. And then we enjoyed the night a little bit to kind of seeing these orders come through. And we took about a day to kind of enjoy it and recover. And then we were back to work. Now we have to actually fill these orders. And that was the challenge in front of us. How do we scale our business? How do we scale our operations? Who do we need to hire to get these orders out? But we're, again, very lucky and very fortunate for the opportunity, and we're happy to see the response.
And after that, there's that spike, the $1 million worth of sales, I think, in 4 days. Was there just a new baseline established at that point where it didn't dip beneath this moving forward?
Well, I would say that was definitely, it was a spike for us. I think there's a normal number that we do have now that wasn't that. But that being said, we obviously gained a large amount of customers that and new people that knew about our product, and so they are customers today, still a lot of them, and that's what the show does. It's really hard to find another opportunity that markets so many people so quickly.
Yeah.
But no, our sales aren't. I wish I could say that, but no, that was definitely a spike. And also, side note, we weren't sure what platform to use and what would actually handle the traffic that from the show, and we were very fortunate that the site stayed up. We continued to get orders, and we were lucky that we were on the Shopify platform at the time, so it went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So I think it sounded like you experienced the stress test of whether you could keep up with the demand with production. But was there anything else that you were maybe caught off guard or surprised by that you realized had to also kind of scale up because you just couldn't handle the demand? Like maybe listeners out there aren't going to have the same kind of spike, but what are some things beyond just production that you need to think about scaling up as your business grows?
Yeah, I would actually say a big one was customer service. At the time we had been, and I think a lot of people starting off should and will, manage their inbox, whether that's, I think most people will be on email, messages you get through the website. And, ours is a bit extreme, I would say, in terms of how much volume we got in so little time. But we quickly found out we had to manage customers, right? And we know that that's important to us. We want to make sure every customer is taken care of, and there are little things that I think we didn't expect that we would have to quickly figure out. And so anything from my shipping address is wrong. Hey, our order is wrong. We'd love to get this flavor instead. Oh, can I get this as a present? How long is shipping? And we also happened to air right before Christmas and Thanksgiving. And so we had a lot of people who come through who wanted to buy presents for other people. And so, managing those questions, I think, is something we underestimated. And we realized that pretty quickly that we needed some help. And so we immediately got, we're lucky to still have them today, some customer service people to help manage just the inbound questions that we had.
Did that mean not just like hiring more people, or did you have to put like systems in place that you didn't have before? Or what were some of the changes you have to make to support the larger scale of customers?
I think it became apparent also that, there were opportunities to save time and also to have the same message. And so we took some time to figure out, okay, hey, here are the common questions that we get. Okay, I think there's one answer that we have. We don't have to replicate the same, answer every time. And so we figured out how to, I hate to say templatize, but we found the right messaging that was common amongst us so we can communicate clearly to our customers. We were able to do that a bit faster versus, someone literally typing a message every time. And I would say the other thing is, quickly had to addressing it by updating our FAQ site. And so there are common questions that we didn't think about beforehand. And we luckily were able to quickly go on, our webpage and create a FAQ form that answer common questions, and creating, ways to communicate to customers. Hey, if you have these questions, here's a link to our FAQ page so you can learn about how to solve this problem and so on. And so I think those are things that we were able to do, pretty quick to kind of decrease the workload. And I would say some other things also were just that, these are all customers that you're going to get, new customers most likely. And so doing things like, making sure we obviously provide the opportunity for them to leave their emails in case we needed to communicate with them, whether it's, new deals, new offers, new discounts we offer, all the way to just you want to keep up with their news. It's something that we were very focused on making sure that we could capture their information if they wanted to, so that we can, communicate with them going forward after the show.
Yeah. So one thing that you mentioned too about as things are scaling up was around having to be better at saying no. And I think it's specifically around when the demand outpaced the production, figuring out what kind of business to say no to. Tell us more about that. What kind of business were you having to say no to?
Yeah, I mean, I won't get into necessarily full details on that, but I think there are just opportunities out there that depending on where you are, that a lot of it has to do with financials and, of course, like you said, it has to do with what you're able to produce. You have to prioritize who gets what. So if we're only able to let's just, as an example, create 1,000 units of something, and you have a demand for, let's say, 5,000, we had to make decisions on who gets prioritized first. And, I think one thing we tried to do obviously was, focus on people who order from Shark Tank. That was a big one for us to make sure we provided them product and the right communication in terms of when products should get to them. But also our existing customers that we have had long relationships with that help get our business to where it is today. Making sure that they were prioritized as high as possible, so that we could make sure that they get product as well. And I think it comes down to, obviously, ultimately just communication with each whatever group that you prioritize. If we couldn't take the business yet, making sure that it's clear that we are interested in working with them, but we just may have to wait until we can, increase our capacity or figure out what we need to scale up. And a lot of times, obviously, no one ever wants to say no to business, but it's in hindsight, it actually turned out well that they trusted us. They understood why we were going through challenges, and they appreciated us communicating to them why we needed to wait. Potentially, there's also other things to consider in terms of more details of like margin. Some opportunities may make more sense in terms of for your business to focus on in terms of what margin you get. And for us, cash flow is very, very important. It's how we run our business, and so there may be opportunities out there that may make sense from a marketing perspective. But if you're cash flow hungry, which most people are, you may want to focus on maybe less marketing opportunities, but opportunities that actually provide cash that you need to run the business. And so those are just all examples of different things I think we had to weigh against each other to figure out who gets what.
Yeah, and I think it's easy as an entrepreneur to be like, let me go after every opportunity that's out there. But you mentioned to us about there's consequences to overcommitting, and that overcommitting can be more damaging in some cases. Tell us more about that. Like, why not say yes to everything? What's the actual damage that's caused from saying yes to more than you can handle?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we still, I would say we still um, have to manage that today. I mean, it's this delicate balance of, we want to continue growing. We want to continue seizing opportunities. We want to work with new partners that we think would be a great fit. And ultimately, the real reason is we can reach more customers and people that we think we can provide such a great product to. And so I think there's that's always what we want. But on the flip side is that, and we've learned this through experience, is, it's a delicate balance, right? You do want to reach those markets, but you're really not doing anyone a favor if you don't deliver. And so we always have to kind of tread carefully that, we want to be aggressive, but we can't be too aggressive where we miss a launch, or we're missing deadlines that a customer may need our product by, and we're not able to hit it, and then no one's left happy, and you have a damaged relationship with someone that that you have to work really hard, or you may never get back. And so, it's just that relationship is very important, and you want to build that relationship so that they trust you, that and ultimately you fill their needs, right? They need to sell product, or they need to get a product to someone else by a certain amount of time, and if you don't help them do that, then neither of you are successful. But again, it is challenging, especially early on, to time all that right. And so it's definitely treading a balance of being aggressive, having a goal and a target to hit, while not overcommitting is I think a balance that you probably will face. We faced early on, and we still face today.
I want to talk about the website. So you had mentioned that a lot of traffic coming there on the night of the Shark Tank. Did you have to create like a special like landing page or anything for that premiere? Like, what kind of changes have you made to the site that have been helpful for conversions?
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely, and luckily we had a Mark's team help us kind of navigate what it was like to launch, especially before an area like that, which was very helpful. And also, talking to other entrepreneurs and startups that have gone through that experience. And I think one thing was to make sure you're able to communicate with customers that come to your website if they want to. So something that we like a lot of people do is they typically put up a pop-up or some sort of display that welcomes new people. So like in our case, Shark Tank, we knew would happen, and we knew a lot of people would be driven to the site from that. So, very personalized message that thanked people for visiting from the show, as well as offering, hey, thanks for visiting us. We'd love for you to try this now that you've seen this on the show. So figure out our discounts and incentives we want to offer for people to try was a big thing that we've worked through. And then also, I mentioned this before, but yeah, how do we if you want to continue following us or following our brand, whether it's from purchase or whether it's this general news, making sure it's easy for them to leave their information to get that info so we can communicate with them. So providing this kind of landing page and a pop-up, welcoming them, a place to leave their email, was something that we really tried to make sure we did early on.
Any apps that you recommend to do that, or any other apps that you use on the website?
Oh, that's a good one. I'd have to look at that one. I don't remember what we used for our pop-ups. I think it was, I don't remember. I don't know if I can answer that one, actually. I can certainly follow up later, but there are a number of apps out there that allow you to easily create those kind of pop-ups and landing pages. Mm-hmm. I'd say the other apps that helped us a lot were, keeping reviews and displaying reviews. So we used Stamp.io right now to display our reviews and allow people to leave reviews as well. And that's the big one. Another one that we tried to use as well was reorder points. So people want to just have a subscription and reorder over and over again. I think we use an app called Bold I believe, to capture. If they are a customer, they're allowed to reorder, every month if you want to, every 2 months or whatever they want. They're able to set that on our site very easily to make sure they consistently get reorders that happen to go to the site every time they want an order. And then I think some of the other ones that we also had, other apps that I recommend as well, were some back in stock apps. And so, for instance, for us, we went out of stock after 4 days, but we continued to get traffic and people who wanted the product. And so we set up some apps to capture their email in case the customer wanted to know when we're back in stock. And we were able to, quickly do that and capture emails. And then once we were able to catch up with production, we were able to quickly email them and notify them when we're back in stock. And so I think those are a handful of apps that we were able to utilize and still utilize today.
Awesome. So mushroomjerky.com is the website. I'll leave you with this last question. What do you think is the most important thing for you to focus on to take the business to the next level over the next year?
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest things that today that I'm focused on to get to the next level is really getting the right people around me and specifically a team. I'm kind of, from my story, and I started off as a solo entrepreneur doing this as a side hustle. And now I'm learning what it's like to actually build my team up at a different scale and different size. And so I think one thing that we're focused on right now is I'm very proud of how we got here today and the people who have helped build this up to this point. But now we know that we need help and we need a good team to take us to that next level. And that's what I'm very excited about. And so far it's been, we've hired some really great people this year already that I think are helping us get to the next level. And I think that work will always continue even going forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience and your advice, Michael.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shopify Masters, the e-commerce podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs powered by Shopify.